And welcome back to the Sports Fix. It's time to have a look at the world of AFL, what is going on, and we're joined by the Statman. G'day, Jase.
Thanks, Clayton. Yes, plenty happening in the AFL, and we're going to have a look to start with at AFLW. We're going to mix in some AFLW news with the AFL men's news as well, given that the girls deserve their time in the sun and are heading towards finals time. But the league best and fairest favourite, Kiara Bowers, is opting to challenge a one-game ban, which saw her suspended. Obviously, she's going to the tribunal to try and beat this charge. She was pinged for a dangerous tackle in the Dockers' 5-point loss to Melbourne on Sunday. So it was a tackle on Eden Zanker. It was assessed as careless conduct, medium impact, and high contact. Now, the 29-year-old, Kiara, she finished runner-up last year behind Carlton's Madison Prasparkas, and she is the runaway leader of the AFL Coaches Association Award at the moment, so an absolute star of the competition, and no doubt would have a big impact on who would go in as favourite to win the Best and Fairest Award. So we'll see how she goes at the tribunal. Some other AFL news. Now, Port Adelaide's Orazio Fantasia has spoken about still having love for the Essendon Football Club. He will play his old club for the first time in Adelaide this week. It's going to be an interesting night for all Port Adelaide supporters and Bombers fans as well, but in particular for Fantasia, who was born in Adelaide, but absolutely still has a soft spot for his old club, the Bombers. He said he's excited, but he's also a little nervous, and he said, I'm sure I'll get nervous when it gets close to game time, but he has nothing but love for his former teammates. Oh, that's lovely. I'm sure once the game gets going, though, that love will be put aside and it will be on. Now, one of the big stories of the weekend in AFL was Matt Rowell for the Gold Coast Suns. Thankfully, his knee injury isn't as bad as we first feared. When we saw him limp back out onto the ground on crutches and with the big knee brace on, it was a case of perhaps it was a second season-ending injury in just his 6-game career, but it's not the case. The Suns have confirmed that the 19-year-old has sustained a minor tear to the posterior cruciate ligament. He fell heavily in the first quarter after a tackle against the West Coast in Perth on Sunday. Now, the injury won't require surgery, and Suns football manager John Haynes has said Rowell will wear a brace for 6 weeks, with a return to play unlikely for another 4 to 6 after that. So he's going to miss half the season, but at least it's not season over for the Gold Coast star, and we'll see how the Suns go. They were pretty good on the weekend, albeit without him, and they're used to playing without him. They played most of last year without him already, and they've got plenty of talent on that list, so hopefully he gets back mid-season. Now, the AFL has confirmed, and Melbourne has confirmed, 75,000 people will now be able to get into the MCG. Crowds are going to be at 75% capacity from round 2 onwards. The Premier, James Molino, said on Tuesday that from Thursday's match between Collingwood and Carlton, stadiums will be able to fill up to 75% as part of the latest easing of coronavirus restrictions across the state. That is fantastic news for football fans, and I'd be shocked if we didn't see very close to that 75,000 mark there for Collingwood versus Carlton on Thursday night. Probably the biggest news in AFL at the moment is the tribunal hearing tonight, which will see Patrick Dangerfield go up for his hit on the Adelaide Crows' Jake Kelly, sent straight to the tribunal. Rory Sloane, an old teammate, along with Mark Rasciuto, I believe a business partner still of Patrick Dangerfield's, but obviously they have an affinity for a former Adelaide player. They've both come out and spoken in support of Patrick Dangerfield, which I find bizarre, but that's what they've done. Now, the Geelong Star, he's going to front the tribunal tonight after the incident which left Kelly concussed and with a broken nose. He was assessed by the match review panel, Michael Christian, the officer there, as having conducted careless conduct, severe impact with high contact. Now, he faces the prospect of being suspended for up to 3 games. But Rory Sloane has spoken out in defence of him, saying he was incredibly unlucky after it was a head clash. And the reality is, Patrick Dangerfield probably didn't mean to create the carnage that came out of the incident. But if you choose to bump, the AFL has basically said that you are responsible for the outcome. So very interesting. Obviously, all eyes will be on the tribunal tonight. A man who didn't have to go to the tribunal is Gold Coast Suns player Brandon Ellis, who has escaped with a fine for a high hit. Two-time premiership defender Brandon Ellis, now at the Gold Coast Suns, hit Oscar Allen high. Ellis, who crossed over, of course, as we know, at the end of 2019, collected Allen high with a very late bump in the Eagles' forward line. The incident was assessed as careless conduct, low impact, and high contact, meaning Ellis just gets a fine of $2,000 with an early plea. Now, the Dockers have got their own injury crisis, and it didn't get any easier for them on the weekend. Fremantle expect Alex Pearce to miss up to 2 months of the AFL season. Terrible luck for this young man. A knee injury for him. An ankle injury will sideline Joel Hamling for at least a month, and those two missed the entire 2020 season because of injuries, and it's just poor luck for both of these guys. And Fremantle's defensive group is at breaking strain. I think 6 of their first-choice defenders were out at the end of that round, although Michael Frederick, who had a calf injury, may be available for the round 2 clash with GWS. Michael Walters is out with a hamstring at the moment. He'll miss another week, so they've got a fair old injury crisis there at Dockers Land. Now, we've got news out of Melbourne, or North Melbourne, I should say, that their reigning best and fairest winner, Luke McDonald, will be sidelined for at least another fortnight after straining his quad. Now, he was a late withdrawal after not completing a fitness test during or just before the game against Port Adelaide. He's also expected to miss games against the Gold Coast Suns and the Western Bulldogs. That's a wrap on AFL news at the moment, and there is plenty more set to come, but all eyes will be on the tribunal tonight, with Patrick Dangerfield likely to get multiple weeks for his hit on Jake Kelly. Clayton, that's what's happening in the world of AFL right now.
And Jase, the Statman, certainly has his finger on the pulse of what's going on in and around the world of AFL. He loves it all year round, so we'll have more from him tomorrow on the Sports Fix, and of course later in the week on the Flow Sports Show as well. A very important conversation we've got coming up for you next. We're going to be discussing the topic of CTE.